Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Troilus and Cressida, and we get to hear from Nestor today in Act 1, Scene 3. Now, I don't know if you've read the Iliad or any of those things, but Nestor is an actual character from those, and he's like the oldest of the Greek guys, and he built a reputation as being wise, but during this part of his life, he's more just sort of there, which is, yeah, anyway, you'll see a little bit more after the monologue. But he's there in the room with Ulysses and Agamemnon. When Agamemnon made his speech yesterday saying, like, we shouldn't be discouraged that we haven't defeated Troy yet, because if everything was good, like anybody can do fine when everything is good. The true test of a person is whether or not they can withstand the storm, kind of a thing. And this is, we're withstanding the storm. This is a test given to us by Jove. And if we persist and we are consistently good, then we'll win, sort of a thing. And Nestor replies by saying, with due observance of thy godly seat, great Agamemnon, Nestor shall apply thy latest words. In the reproof of chance lies the true proof of men, the sea being smooth. How many shallow bauble boats dare sail upon her patient breast, making their way with those of nobler bulk? But let the ruffian Boreas once enrage the gentle Thetis, and anon, behold, the strong-ribbed bark through the liquid mountains cut, bounding between the two moist elements like Perseus' horse. Where's then the saucy boat, whose weak, untimbered sides, but even now, co-rivaled greatness, either to harbor fled, or made a toast for Neptune? Even so, doth valor's show and valor's worth divide in storm's fortune. For in her ray and brightness, the herd hath more annoyance by the breeze than by the tiger. But when the splitting wind makes flexible the knees of knotted oaks, and flies fled under shade, why then the thing of courage, as roused with rage doth sympathize, and with an accent tuned in self-same key, retires to chiding fortune. So what's interesting about Nestor, and you can see this in the first folio version of this better than you can in other versions. In other versions, they've made it so that it all fits into a nice meter, so that it fits into the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da of a typical Shakespearean line. But in the folio, it's broken up a little bit more, which gives him a different cadence of speech, and maybe speaking to his age and some effort that he has to put into what he's saying. The version of the Iliad, or the poems about the Iliad that Shakespeare supposedly read, had Nestor at being 200 years old, whereas in other versions he's like 60, whatever. So Shakespeare might be trying to emphasize like how old he is, and or maybe even how painful it is to listen to him speak, because he's not really adding much to the conversation here. He pays due deference to Agamemnon, but then he's like, people don't tend to take chances. People like a sure thing. When the sea is smooth, the little boats will go out and sail with the big boats. But as soon as a storm comes in, the big boat is out there by itself, and the little boats are either in harbor where it's safe, or they've been destroyed. Like, that's what happens to the little boats. And then he equates that to like showing off being valiant, but versus like actually being valiant. When things are looking good, it's very easy to say like, haha, yes, we're good. And when things are tough, it's a little harder to keep that act up. So he's kind of building on what Agamemnon said yesterday in terms of the, only the strong weather the storm, with his boat analogy. But then even his analogies at the end of this, he talks about the herd being bothered more by like little gnats than by tigers, but then he switches over to a tree metaphor. Nestor's an interesting character who's not really adding much to this, aside from saying people like a sure thing, and if they don't see a sure thing or are a little bit weaker, then they tend to hide in the face of bad fortune or oncoming storms. And Ulysses, bless him, is going to come and actually say something in tomorrow's monologue so we can get the scene moving again. And I will see you then for that. Mwah.